Going live, give a 30-second delay.
Hey buddy, how are you? It's good to see you. And you know Paul, obviously?
Yes. So we're broadcasting on the internet. I'm just going to jump on camera and say hello.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wait for a thumbs up from Jody. Hello everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Aaron Sheedy. I'm one of the editors of Redcoat Diaries. We're in the informal portion of our evening. However, we recognize that there's people logging in online, and we want to welcome people who are logging in as well as people who were arriving here. And to cut right to the chase, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Constable April Daquan, who's going to start with one of the stories that she submitted to our book. I put her on the spot, so she's making this up as she goes, but I know she'll do great.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for coming. My name's Aaron.
My bad. Tech guy messed up once.
Well, welcome to everybody in the crowd and to all our listeners and watchers online. I'm going to tell one of the stories that's in the book without giving away too many of the details. I was on a relief duty in northern Canada. So when we have members posted up in those northern remote postings, they need breaks out of the community for their wellness and to take care of other appointments and whatnot. And what we do is we send members up there to fill in. So I got selected to fill in a little community in northern, in Nunavut, a place called Whale Cove. And so while I was there, became very good friends with many of the people in the community, and on hockey night, which is Jordan Tutu's hometown is Whale Cove. And for all of those who know, Jordan Tutu plays hockey for the Nashville Predators. So this community is very lucky in that it has funding with the help of many organizations, and including Jordan Tutu, to build a rink, a hockey arena. And I've never played in a hockey arena that's quite that cold. Natural ice surface inside of a building is really amazing. So in meeting the people in the community, and I knew that hockey night was coming up, and one of the teachers from the area had gone out of town and they needed a replacement on the team. And I piped up and said, well, I'm a hockey player, I'd love to play hockey. And so the teacher lent me his equipment, and I found a pair of skates from one of the local kids, and just said, okay, well, I'm just going to go out and play hockey because it's what we do. And so I'm on the ice, and as I'm actually getting changed, a couple of young girls from the community had come up to me and said, you're going to play hockey? I said, well, yeah, I'm going to play hockey. Well, girls don't play hockey. Well, yeah, girls do play hockey. And I was getting changed into my equipment in the... Want me to sing?
I know, just listen out.
I'm impromptu, but I'm not that impromptu. So there was no change room for me, so I was getting changed into the equipment in the basically the front foyer of this arena, with the coldest ice surface in the entire world. So a couple of young girls had come in and were kind of surprised the fact that I was playing hockey. Now all the guys were in the change rooms getting changed, and they had no idea that I was coming out to play. I guess the word hadn't gotten out before the game. And so I got changed and got onto the ice, and I started looking around, and people started filtering into the arena. And I was like, wow, this is a pretty big event for Tuesday night in Whale Cove. Kind of like the NHL, everybody's here from the town. And so I stepped on the ice, and immediately I stepped onto the ice into the face-off circle and looked up, and I went, uh-oh, that guy is my nemesis. This is the guy that when things go wrong in the community, generally he's the guy that we're looking for. And now he's on the opposing team, and we're on a hockey surface. The coldest hockey surface in the face of the earth just got colder. And I'm thinking to myself, I better play a heads-up game here because we've had some run-ins, me and this fella. So we started playing the game, and I guess they didn't realize that Constable April Daquan, the female officer, was actually in the hockey equipment from the teacher and playing against the hometown team. Game was going on, and just kept looking up in the stands, and more people. more people just kept showing up. I didn't know there was this many people in the community. The next thing you know, I pick up the puck and I'm skating around, and the kids and the women are cheering my name. April, April, April. I'm going, wait a minute. You guys pulling a trick on me? But they really, really were excited to see a female officer, female person, playing hockey. So game went on. We were down a couple of goals. The home team versus what they call us, the Kablunuks. People who don't live in the community or weren't born in the community, they call us Kablunuks. And we're down, we're losing. The puck comes to me. I come across the blue line, and I take a shot. Take a shot at the goalie. But just before I take a shot at the goalie, I see out of the corner of my eye, he's coming for me. And I'm thinking, this is not good. I'm going to get crushed because, one, I don't know if he knows that I'm who I am. I'm a female, and he outweighs me by about 50 pounds. And two, I wonder if he's going to just even the score with all the times we've had run-ins and I've had more tools than he has. So I look up and I see him coming and I take a hit. But I let the puck go as he's hitting me, and I crumble to the coldest ice surface in the world that just got colder again. And I look up just in time to see the puck just bounce over top of the goalie's stick and kind of trickle into the net. So I pick up my pride. Yeah. And I go skating away, and that's the end of the game. So I'm sitting in my detachment apartment a couple hours after the game, icing a couple of bruises that I'd kind of acquired through the game. And there's a knock on the door. Okay, here we go. Next call, right? I'm going up to the next call. So, because your calls do sometimes come in these attachments at your front door. So I open the door, and it's him. And I go, okay, hi. And I could smell the cologne. I was like, whew, what's that smell? What it was the sweaty home team jersey that my nemesis had worn during that game. And didn't have time to wash it, so he sprayed it full of his nice cologne, and he wanted to give it to me to say, hey, April, you did real good out there, and you can come play for our team anytime. So it's quite amazing to see that just a game of hockey, good old Canadian hockey, can bring people from opposite ends of the spectrum, and now we're playing on the same team. And while I was in that community for the remainder of the time, we never had any more run-ins. And we actually became kind of good friends. And that's my home team story. You're going to find it on page 142, I believe it is, of the Redcoat Diaries, True Stories of Women in the RCMP. I'm going to hand it back over to Aaron now. Thank you for listening and your interest in celebrating 40 years of women in the RCMP.
Thanks, April.
Welcome.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 10-minute informal session here where if you want to come up, you want to take pictures of the uniform, talk to Reg about this uniform. I'm sure you'll hear stories about it this evening. Or if you want to buy a book, they're $20. They're over there. Or if you want something to eat or drink, it's back there. And we'll be back here in about 8 to 12 minutes, and we will start with more of the official stuff, as well as bringing in some people from British Columbia who are going to be coming in via Periscope and Twitter, who are going to talk to us and tell stories from the other side of the country. So that's exciting. So we'll be back. Thank you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to begin, so we can just clear the front. So,
All right. All right. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it. My name's Matthew Goody. I'm from the publisher Mosaic Press, and first thing I wanted to do was give a thank you to Zoe Johnston, who's in the back there, and her team at the Toronto Public Library for hosting us. They're always gracious hosts, and we love to do events here, and we really appreciate it. So thank you. This is Mosaic Press's 40th anniversary. We've been publishing books out of Oakville for 40 years, since 1976. And one of the reasons we keep publishing books, and in this terrible publishing market, is to do books like the Redcoat Diaries series, books that reflect the character of Canada, reflect the character of the Greater Toronto Area, and are different approaches to writing. I don't think there's a book out there in the true crime, in the Canadian policing genre that's like the Redcoat Diaries. And when Aaron came to us 6 years ago, we jumped at it. And when he came back to us and said he wanted to do a second volume that focused on stories from women in the RCMP to celebrate 40 years of women in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, we were even more excited, because I think with the second volume, the character, the overall focus to it really makes it special. And it was a real honor to work with the three editors, and we're just really excited to publish it. It's on sale tonight, $20 at the back. And thanks for coming out, and I'll let Aaron kick it off.
thanks, Matt. So Redcoat Diaries started literally pretty much what Matt said. I sent an email to Mosaic Press. I ran into Howard Astor, the publisher at Mosaic Press, maybe 2 or 3 years before. And I sent him a 3-line email. Got an idea for a book, true stories about the RCMP. What do you think? About 3 minutes later, bling, email comes back. Okay, let's do it. I remember looking at my computer going, I guess I'm writing a book now. Because that was as far as I planned. And now, 6 years later, 2 volumes later, having worked and written with some of the best people in Canada, we have 2 volumes. And I'm personally very proud. There's so many people who I need to thank on behalf of Redcoat Diaries. The contributors, first and foremost, my co-editors for this volume, Regina and Veronica. Veronica is actually in British Columbia, and she's sitting in British Columbia as we speak, with a collection of the contributors who contributed to the new volume in BC, and you're going to get to hear their stories, and we're going to cut to them if the technology gods smile on us, and it should work very well. I of course would like to take a moment just to thank my family. Carla and Grace are here from my family. They deal with all the crazy writer neurotics, so and they still came, so it's good. So I really do want to take a minute and thank the management and the RCMP. The support we've been receiving for this book has been unreal. Just different things, from media support to we have recruiting here who's come and wants to talk to people. If you want to join up, talk to Michelle. But if you have questions about what RCMP life is like, or what it's like for a cadet in the RCMP, Michelle is your avenue to that. RCMP is very unique in that we all go through the same training. And so our training is something that we have in common to all Mounties. So we all have what we call depot stories. And that all starts with meeting somebody like Michelle to sign up. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my right-hand person in Ontario, Regina Marini. And I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. For those who don't know who I am, I'm an active member right now with the RCMP. I'm a sergeant, and I'm actually reaching a milestone in my career. In June here I am retiring from the RCMP, however, after 34 years. But as Erin was describing, I'm also involved with the Ontario Women in Law Enforcement as the Professional Development Director for that organization, which is affiliated with the International Association of Women Police. And so my interest, obviously, in women's issues was further enhanced by my participation as teaching at both Seneca and Georgian College. And a lot of the students, especially the female students, were coming to me and asking me, what is it like being a female police officer? What is it like being in the RCMP? And it's not the kind of thing you can describe in one word or one sentence. You have to put yourselves, if you will, in the shoes of the women that are out there. So gathering the stories of all the women was what we had hoped to do. So I reached out to Aaron, knowing that he had already published the first edition, and he was, yes, very keen on getting the second edition into the, and to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the women in the RCMP. So, so we then began the arduous task of reaching out across the country to female members, a lot of which were the firsts. We tried to reach out to those women that were the first in, say, the Marine unit, who we have here today. Actually, tonight, one of the first ladies, Jennifer Dowden, and I'm going to bring her up here later to talk to you about what that was like, being the first female in the Marine unit here with the RCMP. But also the first emergency response team. You know, what was that like, being the first woman in a tactical unit like that, in an emergency response unit? So we wanted to get the different fields of operation, because police work isn't just one kind of work. There's different genres of the work we do. And so we wanted to gather that kind of diversity to show also that the women were doing all the various diverse jobs that we have in the organization. We also wanted to reflect, too, the cultural diversity of the organization. And in the book, you'll see stories from our Aboriginal female members. You'll hear stories from the first Inuit female member to the RCMP, also in our book. So, you know, it captures that great diversity we have in the RCMP. So, so yeah, we began to field that. So I'm going to introduce to you some of those ladies and contributors here. I'm going to introduce to you Veronica Fox, who's sitting there in British Columbia now with some of the ladies from British Columbia who have contributed to the book. So Veronica, if you could introduce everyone there that's seated beside you, that would be wonderful.
There's a slight delay, so just give it a second.
It's just getting over Saskatchewan right now, making its way through Alberta. It might.
Based on our YouTube, she came probably 42 seconds.
42 seconds? Really, eh?
She waved, so she heard her name. Second from the right. That's
Oh, there she is.
Last but not least, we have Staff Sergeant Nat Hothy. She has about 20 years of service, and she works, my apologies, she works in the Forensic Ident Services section. You'll read her story, Cortez and Thailand. So I just wanted to say, on behalf of myself and our contributors here in BC, it's been an honor to work on this project. I remember when Aaron came out to BC and met with me after I had contributed to the first book, and he had this great idea, which was he wanted to have a story about women in the RCMP. And he asked me to come on board, and I have to say that there's been a lot of support out here in BC as well. I'd like to thank all of our managers, and I'd also like to thank the contributors who provided stories. She works in the Forensic Ident Services section. You'll read her story, Cortez and Thailand.
Thanks, V. I'm going to turn it over to Regina, who's going to field the storytelling from here. Throughout the stories, feel free to have some refreshments. Go see Michelle at recruiting or go look at the book. And if you have any questions, just throw up your hand. We'll answer questions as they come up.
So to start off, I also contributed a story to the book called City Girl to Bushwoman. And that was my first detachment. So I'll kick it off with my first story. I joined the RCMP in 1982, and I was transferred to D Division, which is Manitoba. And I was told I was going to Falcon Lake, Manitoba. And we were told anything that ends in a lake or anything that ends in a house, it's remote. You're going to be in the middle of nowhere. So I was really concerned. I had no idea where Falcon Lake, Manitoba was. I rushed back to my barracks to see on a map of Canada and pulled up Manitoba to see where Falcon Lake, Manitoba was. Well, for those that don't know, Falcon Lake, Manitoba is on the Ontario-Manitoba border, a Trans-Canada Highway just west of Kenora and east of Winnipeg, kind of situated between those two larger centers. So the nearest banking or shopping is like an hour or an hour drive to get to either Kenora or to Winnipeg. So it didn't have grocery stores. It didn't have, it had a stop sign. Yeah, I remember that. It had lots of gravel roads. It had many lakes that we also had to patrol because we had a boat at the detachment. And we had 2 snowmobiles. So here I was arriving at Falcon Lake, and I'd never lived in a small community in my entire life. I'd grown up in the biggest cities in the world, and here I was posted to Falcon Lake, Manitoba, and really had no idea what to expect or what the challenges were going to be. I did know, however, that the guys that I was going to be working with, because I was going to be the only female at the detachment, had never worked with another female before. And so, you know, I wasn't sure how, you know, that was going to work out, but that was quickly dispelled when I first arrived. I showed up, actually it was my birthday, my 19th birthday. And I pulled into the detachment. It was minus 50 below. It was so cold. And I pulled into the detachment. It was nighttime. I went up to the desk, and there was a member working there. And he came to the desk, and he says, "Oh, you must be the new recruit." I said, "Yes, I'm here. I've arrived." He says, "Well," yeah, your trunk is here." Now, when we graduate from depot, we all have a trunk that all our personal effects, everything, our uniform, everything is then sent from Saskatchewan or Regina to our first detachment. So my trunk had arrived. He said, "Yeah, your trunk is here." I said, "Great." So I jumped into my uniform here in the middle of the night, and he's going to take me out on patrol. So we go flying down around the neighborhood looking, you know, scouting out the detachment area. And not soon after that, we got a call of a snowmobile accident. Well, the snowmobile accident, it turned out to be very close to the Justice of the Peace, his residence. And there at the residence were the other members. So they all had a huge warm welcome for me arriving at the detachment, and it was for me a big, huge kind of sigh of relief that I've arrived and I've been welcomed. And I can say that for sure my first detachment, which I dedicate the story to, were just a great bunch of guys. One of the, I'll talk about a little bit of the uniform because Aaron mentioned this was our uniform dress for the women back in the day. We were given a skirt and gloves and a purse here that, quite frankly, I never even used, and pumps, and we had our working uniform was pants, but our headdress was very different. We had this this was our summer headdress, and this nice little animal over here was our hat. And as you can see, it's quite oddly shaped. In fact, gentlemen, yes, very oddly shaped. And I did my first walkthrough. We do walkthroughs in the bars type thing, just make sure everybody's, knows we're around and, they're going to be responsible and not, of course, go out and drink and drive and all that sort of thing. Well, of course, I do my walkthrough in the bar, and the first comment that comes out, somebody yells out, "Hey, look at the cone head." So you can see where that cone head comment might have come from. So needless to say, I wasn't very keen on wearing my winter hat. So my sergeant at the time, Larry Strite, he's in the book, he kind of approached me and said, "You're not wearing your hat." And this is the winter dress, by the way, that the men wear, but now we wear as well. But I went up to my sergeant. I said, "Yeah, well, Larry, the public, I kind of got a little ridiculed because of the hat. Yes, it's warm, but, I looked at him and I said, 'Would you wear it, Larry?'" And he kind of chuckled like you're chuckling now. And he went back into his residence, which was attached to the detachment. So a lot of the remote detachments, actually, the residence, the sergeant usually lives right next door to the detachment, and it's usually attached. So he went back into his house, and this is, in fact, his hat and his headdress here. And he gave me, instead of having to wear the women's issue, he gave me his headdress and said, "You can wear mine." So, literally, my hat's off to a forward-thinking sergeant who realized that, I was being put in a position where, a little humiliation, and he chose to make it right. And we did get the same dress as the men, not until the 1990s, but until that time, I was wearing it well before we were officially allowed to. So that's kind of one of the stories that is in the book. So amongst many other of the great stories that are in there. So I'm going to introduce now just another one of the contributors who can come up and just give a little snippet of their contribution to the book. So I'm going to ask Louise, since you're sitting right over there, Louise. Louise Savard is one of our contributors. And Louise, just introduce yourself and just a little bit about your story.
Okay, my name's Louise Savard. I'm a corporal with the Mounted Police. I'm in the media relations section. And I started in '86, and I had the same beautiful uniform as Regina here. And anyways, my first posting, I was posted in Florenceville, New Brunswick. And when I looked on the map, I couldn't find Florenceville. So I researched it, but we didn't have Google, and we didn't have all these nice tools that we have today. And somebody told me it's between Fredericton and Edmundston, and it's in the middle somewhere, and if you blink, you're going to miss it. So I had never been to, I came from a bigger town. I was originally from Montreal, Quebec, so I proceeded to drive from Regina to my posting. It was a 300 people town, and there was not much of much there. And so when I got there, I had been told that the sergeant, they called him Ayatollah. So I was a little worried, and I was told he didn't like French people, and I was the first woman to be posted there. So anyways, I proceeded to do my one of my first shifts in the first week, and they gave me the keys and they gave me a car, and I was driving along the river, and there was not many street signs anywhere, and all of a sudden I see this car coming towards me, and it's swerving, and I'm going, oh, that looks like an impaired driver. So I called on the radio, and I'd advised our communications that I think I have an impaired driver here. So I said, I'm going after him. So like I said, it's a small town. I was the only member working. So I turn around and go after the guy, and I put my lights on, and he keeps on going, and I don't know where I'm going. Like, this is the first or second time I'm in this town, and so I'm telling them where I'm going, and he stops in front of this house, jumps out of the car, and then runs into the house. And I go, oh, shoot. Probably something else I said, but anyways. So I called our communications. I said, well, the guy just ran in the house. They said, well, you're new. Don't go after him. We got backup on the way. So I got some people coming. They came, and but meantime, this lady runs out of the house, and she says to me, she goes, you got to get him out of my house. And I said, yes, ma'am. And I said, do you know him? She says, yeah, he's my ex-boyfriend, but I'm going to clean the school, and I want him out before I come back. I said, yeah, no problem. So finally my backup arrives, and we go in the house, and she's gone to work, and we're walking in the house, checking, and then I found him, and he was behind one of the doors, and we arrested him. But never, to say the least, it was an interesting posting, learned lots on that, and like I said, I was the first woman there, and I was pretty intimidated by my trainer was 6 foot tall, and I'm 5 foot nothing. And anyways, when I left the detachment, because the first day he called me into his office, the sergeant said to me, he goes, Savard, which is my last name, you're getting the same pay as the men, so I expect the same. You're not getting any special treatment. I said, I don't expect anything special. So when I left, I felt really, we had a conversation before I left, and he said, you know, I'm really impressed with your work, and your shoes are going to be hard to fill. And that really made me feel proud to be, or what I've done. So, but it's all up to Reg now.
Thanks, Louise. So we're just going to go back to British Columbia and perhaps hear from one of them there. So Veronica, can you hear me?
1 second.
Oh, here we go, the delay again.
Oh, got the delay figured out.
Oh, we get it figured out? Oh, Veronica's not there. That's my astute police observations there, noticing that she's not sitting there. Where did she go? Maybe I'll talk to Donna. Okay, bear with us with technology.
And he got posted to the RCMP first, and I'd always been interested, but I ended up not joining, and we moved out to BC, and I had my family. I had 2 young boys, and I became an auxiliary constable. Now, when you're an auxiliary constable, you can go out, and at that time, I was working in Langley, British Columbia, so I wore a uniform that was exactly like regular members. I carried a sidearm. The only thing was I had a little, hello there, a little patch on my arm that said auxiliary. And I, of course, was not being paid. So I was gone every weekend. And my husband was very, very tolerant. However, he finally said to me, if you're going to be gone all the time, you might as well get paid to be doing it. So we had a discussion, and even though my sons were 6 and 7 at the time, which was really, really hard for me, we made a decision we would make it work. So my husband was extremely supportive of me. I was 31 years old when I went into the RCMP, and I wasn't the strongest person going. And at that time, you had to pass a physical ability test, and my husband built it for me in the cul-de-sac so I could train on it to pass. So lo and behold, I get hired, and my parents were very happy to have a son-in-law who was a Mountie, but I can't tell you where they were very thrilled to have a daughter who was a Mountie. My dad was very protective, and he was not very sure that it was the right choice for me. But he knew that I was following my dreams, so my parents have been very supportive. Now, I'm from Ontario here. We were posted to British Columbia. When I graduated from training, I went back to Langley, British Columbia. And so we would call home to our family every weekend, and I would talk to my dad and talk to my mom. Now, I'd talk to my dad first, and he'd say, how are you? How are the kids? How is Paul? I'm going to pass you over to your mom. And then I would talk to my mom. So as it turned out, I was 4 years into my service. I was working in Langley Traffic Unit. My parents were out visiting us, and I was able to secure a ride along for my dad. Now, nowadays you can't do that anymore, but this was 1996. So anyway, I get a ride along pass for my dad. I get permission for him to come out, and it's a typical Lower Mainland BC night in the winter. It's raining. And so anyway, we're patrolling around, and my dad's out with me, and it's pretty quiet for the first couple hours that we're on shift. And then we get a call from dispatch that there's a pursuit coming from the next municipality over, which was Matsqui. So I was very close to where the pursuit was. I said to dispatch, I'm going to set up a roadblock on the road that they are now traveling on. So it was in a very dark area. It was north of the Aldergrove Zoo, which is way out in the country in Aldergrove. And I set my police car up, and we're trained how to do it properly and in a safe manner. And my dad and I could see the lights coming in the distance for the vehicles. And there was about 5 or 6 police cars chasing this van that was stolen. And it was getting closer and closer, and I was getting very concerned. So I said to my dad, you got to get out of the car and stand on the side of the road because I'm not sure what this guy's going to do. And if he hits the passenger side, we're going to be in trouble. So he gets out, he's standing there, the pursuit gets close, and the van's not slowing down. So it blows by the front of my police car. I hit the gas, and I take off after him with my dad on the side of the road. And lo and behold, I find myself in position number 1. I'm right behind the stolen vehicle. I now have about 5, at the time it was Matsqui police, but now they're Abbotsford, behind me. So we head out. We're on the road that leads to the number 1 highway, which is the equivalent of the 401 here. And so I'm following him, and I go past him. And I'm trying to slow him down. I'm going back and forth with my police car trying to slow him down. And he's not slowing down, and he's not paying attention. All of a sudden, the vehicle goes into, the turnarounds, the emergency turnarounds. He goes in there, and I've gone past the turnaround. So what I did was I hit the gas, I cranked the wheel of my PC, my police car, and the car spins around. Just in time for me to watch all the other police cars go through the turnaround, and I'm in the back of the pack. And that's not a place where I wanted to be at all. So I get turned around, and I start moving up and moving up. Now, at that time, Matsqui was calling the pursuit, and they were talking to our dispatch. So we weren't getting it in real time. So I knew that I needed to get up to the front so I could report on it in real time to our police cars from Langley. So I move up, and I move up, and I move up, and now I find myself in position number 1, right behind the stolen van. So I think, okay, so I hit the gas, and I go right around the front, and I'm back in the front again, going back and forth, back and forth. I'm calling the pursuit. I'm watching it in my rearview mirror, and I'm waiting for a spike belt. And we called Surrey. We're getting very close to Surrey at this time, and nobody was around with a spike belt. So we knew we had to stop it because we were getting into a really populated area. So the dog man had pulled up, and I was in front, the dog man was over here, and we had him boxed in on 3 sides. So I said to the dog man, on the count of 3, we're going to hit the brakes and see what happens. So 1, 2, 3, hit my brakes, and I fully was prepared he was going to run right into me. Fortunately, he did not. I jump out of my police car, I run around the front of the van to the passenger side, only to see the Matsqui police car come flying up, and I'm right there. So I jump up onto the hood of the car, land on the hood of the car, kind of surprised. I surprised him too because I could see him and he wasn't too sure what was going on. Fortunately, I wasn't hurt. And we got the guy into custody. He had a Canada-wide warrant. There were weapons in the vehicle. So after that, my corporal came up to me, and he wasn't a particular fan of mine. But anyway, I thought maybe he's going to say I did a good job, right? No, wishful thinking. So he walks up to me and he starts lecturing me on what I did. It was very, very dangerous. I put my life in danger. And you know what? He was right. But at the end of the day, I knew what the options were, and I knew that we had to find a way to shut that pursuit down, and we did. So I'm back in my police car, and I'm talking on TAC 2, which is the channel that we talk to. It's an open channel that we can talk to our dispatchers. Channel 1, TAC 1 is when we're just, talking when we're pulling over vehicles, that sort of thing. But we can have a much longer conversation on TAC 2. And while I'm talking to the dispatcher, she said to me, "Heather, you did an amazing job. You did a terrific job shutting that down." Well, before I knew it, well, actually, what happened was I was talking to a friend of mine who went and picked my dad up on the side of the road. He found him, picked him up, put him in the police car. When the other constable was bringing my dad back to the scene, my dad heard the conversation from the dispatch. So he knew that the dispatchers were very impressed with the work that I had done. So a few minutes later, he shows up at the scene. He gets out of the car, and I'm like, "Okay, Dad, I see you're soaking wet here. I'm really sorry I left you on the side of the road." I said, "Listen, do you want to go home?" And he said, "You know what? I'm not. I want to stay with you." And it turned out we had another pursuit that night. We had an impaired driver. We had a really bad motor vehicle accident that turned into a fatal. And my dad was great. He was a trooper the whole time, but he just wouldn't come into the hospital. He stayed in the car with me because that was a little too much for him. But at the end of the day, it was a defining moment in the relationship with my dad. My dad was interested in what was going on and is everybody safe, and when he would talk to me. And now he saw me as a capable police officer. And so now, when I call home, my dad wants to talk to me, and we talk about everything. We talk about politics. He wants to know about what I'm doing in policing. So that was a real change for me, and ever since then, my dad's relationship and mine has been very, very different. And he asks me for advice now instead of giving it to me all the time. So that's my story. It's on page 91. So I hope you enjoy the book if you pick it up. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Heather. So we have another story that we're from one of our contributors, and I'm going to go to one of our younger contributors because she's wearing a very unique uniform here tonight. Her name is Jennifer Dowden, and she's with the Marine Unit out of Niagara Detachment. So, if I were 20 years younger, I would definitely be doing what you're doing. But at any rate, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Dowden.
Good? Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Constable Jennifer Dowden. I have almost 10 years service with the RCMP, so I think I'm the most junior member here. I'm from Newfoundland, if you couldn't tell by my accent already. So basically, my story is about an experience I had just this last, 2014, December. I was working in Ottawa in international peacekeeping at the time, and I was there for about 2 years. And I was enjoying my job, but I wanted to get back out into the field because I was in the office at that time. And my superintendent approached me and said, "I think you would be good for shipwriter." And I said, "What's that?" I'm not a mariner at all, even though I'm from an island. You would think that I have some water skills, but I actually don't. But I was excited about this new opportunity. Shipwriter is an international marine unit that's just started up with the RCMP in Ontario. It exists in Windsor, and we started up the unit in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and at the same time, the Kingston detachment started up. So I jumped on board, sorry for the pun, and I went to South Carolina for some training. Prior to that, we had a conference call, and all of the RCMP people were on the line for that. So there were 7 of us who were going down to train with the United States Coast Guards. And that's when I found out that I was the only girl going on this. And it was an interesting experience, of course. So in the process of the phone call, I was advised that there was going to be a pool portion to the training. So I wasn't overly impressed with that, but I had to go with it, of course. I had signed up and I was committed. And of course, in the process of this conference call, being the only girl, of course, there was a reference to bringing your one-piece swimsuit as opposed to the two. But I reassured them that I would be wearing the one-piece and reluctantly went to shop for that. When I arrived at the airport in South Carolina, I'm going with my bags and going to find this guy who's got the sign that says Flexi, which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in South Carolina. And I see this guy and he points to this white school bus that's been repainted. So I go with my bags and going along. And I get to this school bus and it hasn't been modified for traveling. It's still just the school bus with these big high steps. So, all right, I got this, I'm fine. So I've got my big heavy suitcases and I have a few choice words as I'm getting up into the bus, trying to maneuver the luggage in there. And as I turn to the aisle in my choice words, trying to be a lady, of course, and I look up and it's full of these young, shaved head, 20-something-year-old U.S. Coast Guard guys. So these were going to be my counterparts in training. So I honestly said, oh, I didn't realize there was anyone going to be here, and just kind of made my way onto what I thought was an empty bus, but was not. So in this training, I got to say everybody was really awesome. I was very welcome. I didn't feel like the only girl at any time, but I was very aware of that. And when we did our formal introductions, I announced myself as the token female for the course, and they got quite a kick out of that, so it was kind of nice. One of the days, we came back after lunch, and I guess through the grapevine, someone had found out that I'd rode with the RCMP musical ride. And if you know about the musical ride, we get a trading card each year, and it has a picture of the horse and the rider on the front, and has a little bit of information on the back. So I walk into the class after lunch, and someone took the liberty of finding the card online, I think, and blowing it up to a nice size, probably half of that, and posting it on the board. So they thought that would be, I don't know what they thought I was going to do, but anyhow, it was received very well, and the Mounties got a kick out of it, of course, but the U.S. Coast Guard guys were more, that's you. And so it sparked a lot of conversation, because that's what the U.S. Coast Guards would picture as Canadian Mounties. And because I had done that, they were intrigued and they wanted to know more. So it sparked more conversation, and it bonded us a little bit more, I think. So towards the end of the training, we get pool day, the day I'm dreading. And so I go into a change room, and actually it was more of a bathroom, but anyway, get into my swimwear and get out there, and we get down to business, and I almost drowned that day, but I'm here to tell you I didn't. But it was fun, holding bricks in water and treading the water and passing along the bricks and all this stuff. It was a really good team building experience, but I think my teeth are a lot whiter for that. So at the end of this day, I decide I'm going to solidify my commitment to this shipwriter gig with all these guys. And I decided at the end of the class, we had to climb this Jacob's ladder, and it's a very, very high rope to the very top of the ceiling, and you have to climb it and hope your arms cooperate with you to the very top. And once you get there, they pull the rope back, and then you have to let go, and you have to make sure that you are straight as a pin to the bottom, or it's an embarrassing belly flop at the bottom. So at this swim class, I decided that I was going to do that first, just to kind of show the guys that I was committed to this. And so yeah, I was the first one up the rope, and they said I did a smashing job. I don't know what it looked like, but so at the end of that, when I came up after touching the very bottom of the pool and not drowning, came up, and they were all applauding. And I thought that was pretty cool because it just showed support. And I really appreciated that. And then after myself, all of the guys went up and took their turns. And after everybody came out, everyone applauded. So it was a really good experience. Everybody passed that course. It was a lot of fun. So now I'm working on a team with all guys, of course. I'm not the first female. I have to correct you because I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. My troop mate, I think, was actually the first female, and she's in Windsor. So I'll give her a shout out. I'm one of the first. I don't know if I'm the second, but yes, one of the first. But the experience I had with being the only girl in this particular unit, it was a really good one. So I wanted to touch on that, and I wrote on page 38 is my story. It's 2014. What do you mean I'm the only female? And at the end of that, I just touch on how it's important to teach people how to treat you. Because once you establish that relationship and that rapport, and people know what they can joke about and they know what's okay, and you build that mutual respect, you can do a lot of good things. And we had a great time on that course. And I've done the same in all of my relationships at work and outside of work as well, working with men and women. And it served me well. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we're going to return to BC, are we?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to turn the mic on. Yeah, we've got some interesting people on here now sending us messages. Can we see it out? Well, I don't know. I think so. I we were able to figure out the. I think the messages will say, right? Yeah, everything's okay. Yeah, you can see it later. I'll tell you later.
Actually, I'm just going to try to talk to you guys because it's hard to talk to you.
Waiting for them to get my text message.
Looking at the little. I actually prefer when it's flipped so you can actually see yourself. You just talk to yourself. So he likes your boots.
Tell him I'm not coming to London. Actually, I'm stopping in London. You can hear it.
Oh, go, okay.
You can introduce us.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back. Thank you. And I just wanted to take this moment to provide some special recognition to our guest here today, Donna, who is a member of Troop 17. And I had a chance to meet Donna when I started working with her on this project, just over the phone and email to start with. But we met in person prior to another event that we did out here in BC. And I was really taken with how warm and welcoming she was. And I have to say that we, all of us sitting here, and all the women of the force owe a debt of gratitude to Donna and her Troop 17, because I've often, we actually learn about them at Depot when we first start. And I've always said, like, if it wasn't for the first women who wanted to do this, then we wouldn't have that opportunity. I wouldn't have that opportunity. So thank you very much, Donna.
Thanks, Veronica. Thanks.
And we also would like to hear from Nav, who has a very interesting story. So go ahead, Nav.
Thanks. For 15 years with the RCMP, I've been working with Forensic Guidance Services, so a crime scene examiner. In those 15 years, people have always asked me, how do you balance what you see? How do you not get depressed by all the gore and mayhem that you wind up dealing with on a regular basis? And my answer is very simple. I go, we relish in those moments of brevity and lightness that can occur at any moment of the day, and we focus on those, not the task at hand. So when Veronica approached me to write a story, I thought the story I'm going to write is called Cortez. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the end of a shift while I was working with the Surrey RCMP in Surrey, BC. We get the phone call, and the phone call at 4 o'clock always means that you're not going home and you're going to be working all night. I answered the phone, and of course I got the call that there was a homicide in a residence in Surrey, and that they needed IDAC to attend. So I contacted my partner, and the two of us started packing up our stuff and heading out. It was a beautiful sunny day, and our moods were actually pretty good. I thought, it's 4 o'clock, I'm probably going to be able to wrap this up before 3, and I'll get to bed. Got to the crime scene, and I won't go into too many details, but it was a pretty simple scene. Wouldn't take us long to process. So we began our tasks. And one of the tasks at any crime scene is, and this was, mind you, 8 years ago, was videotape the crime scene. So you could always say what it looked like when you first got there. I kicked out all the homicide investigators, and my partner, my crime scene partner, he went outside to take photographs from outside the house. I'm setting up with my equipment in the house, and I'm in the living room, and I start rolling. Now, when we roll and take a crime scene video, we want to include all the background noise. Whatever the camera hears, we want to include. Because when people watch a video with absolutely no sound, it kind of freaks them out. And particularly when you're looking at a crime scene video where you might see blood, you might see bodies, then it's particularly disturbing. So we like to keep that ambient noise. The birds singing, the cars driving by, even an ambulance going by. It's okay. So I start videotaping, and I can hear some murmurs from outside the window of the investigators in the street, but I didn't think they were going to interrupt me at all. I get into the living room, and all of a sudden I hear the word, Cortez. And it was clear as day, and my heart stopped. It was like ice went through all the veins in my body, and I thought there was someone in the house with me. I quickly ran down the stairs, and I asked the guys outside, I go, did you guys search the house? Are you sure there's no one else in this house? And the investigators outside are like, yes, but let's do it again. We searched the entire house, didn't find a soul. I thought, okay, maybe I heard it or something, but then I went back to videotaping. I then start videotaping again, and I hear it clear as day. Cortez, again. This time I think it's the members. And so I go outside to the members, and I go, guys, you know I have to videotape. You know I can't hear anything on this video. What are you guys doing? We didn't say anything now. We're just standing outside. And I storm upstairs. I go, I've been interrupted twice now. I'm not going to get home at 3 in the morning. It's going to take me longer. So I continue videotaping. And for the third time, I hear a voice. But this time it's not Cortez. I hear a different word. And to not offend anyone in the audience, I'm just going to say, I heard clear as day the words, F you. And I thought, that's it. That's it. It's got to be the members outside, and they're playing a joke on me, and I storm downstairs. Now, the homicide investigators and I, we have a pretty good relationship, but after what I did next, I don't think I had as good a relationship with both of them. I tore a strip off one of them. I said, you know you can't do this. You're causing me to be delayed. We're not going to get out of here. I'm using temper with you. And they both stood there stunned, looking at me, going, nah, we didn't say a word. So I go back inside. My crime scene partner comes up, and he's working in the bottom level. And then I hear it again. F you. And I'm like, that's it. There's someone in the house. I start searching behind the couches in the living room. I start searching behind the curtains in the living room. And I come across a large cage, a cage that had been covered. And I just thought it was, something that had been covered to protect it from light. But I pull the cover off of it. And I see, right in front of me in the cage, the largest macaw I have ever seen in my life. The macaw looks at me straight and looks at me in the eye and says, F you. Well, I started to giggle to myself, and then I felt really bad, and I went back outside to apologize to the investigators. I found out what was talking to me. Anyway, we wrap up the crime scene. A few weeks later, I'm working with this video. Now, this crime scene video's got to go to court. And it was court time, and I spoke with the Crown investigator. I said, I've got this video. It's great, but I've got these words. I've got this talking. I've got this parrot that's saying, F you. I don't know how we can present this in court. Crown said, you know what, if it's an issue, we'll worry about it then, but let's just go ahead with an unedited, pure version of the video. So we went ahead to court with the video. In court, I'm on the stand, and I start to play the video. But prior to playing the video, I warned the judge and the jury. I said, this is the video of the crime scene. There are some words in the crime scene that may be offensive to viewers and to the audience here, and Your Honor, and I hope you don't mind. We start playing the video. The video is going through, and it's very nice, it's very calm for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden you hear Cortez. The judge asked me to stop the video. I stopped. He goes, Corporal, who was that talking in the video? And I said, my lord, it's actually a parrot, and you're going to see this parrot in a few more frames. He goes, okay, proceed. I turn back to start the video again, and the jury's all kind of looking, and now they're really watching the video. Before they were really watching, now they're really watching the video. So I started again, and the video continues, and then all of a sudden you hear clear as day in a deep man's voice, F you. Well, there's a Twitter from the viewing gallery of this homicide trial. The jurors all start to smirk and look at each other. I'm mortified because we are in the middle of a homicide investigation trial where the life of a man has been taken, And his family is sitting in that audience, and they're watching. And I'm mortified that now this trial has started to make a mockery almost of it. I look over at the judge, and he's done a face palm with his face in his hand, not knowing what to do. Well, I start to shrink down in that stand, in the witness box, and the video continues. And it continues with the parrot saying, F you, F you. And then a really loud screech, F you, and then Cortez and turkey pie. Well, at this point, the jury starts to giggle. And the judge is just red because he's the one who's allowed it. And Crown is just standing there not knowing what to do. And I want to shrink and disappear because this is not how I wanted my court presentation to go. Nevertheless, at the end of my evidence, the accused did plead guilty. The accused never did tell us who Cortez was, and I don't know who Cortez was either. But those are the moments of levity that we try to focus on rather than the task at hand. Thank you. That's a great story.
I think we have time for one more. One more quick one.
Good one. We have time for one more. Mia, do you think you could do a story here? So Mia Pacent, she has a story she has contributed. I can't remember what page it's on.
176.
176. See, they all know their pages. So thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say, seeing all the other women tell their stories, when you read a story, it's in print, it's in black and white. It tells the story, it conveys it in a concise sort of manner. But hearing the author especially tell the story brings such a richness to it and really brings the story to life. So I've certainly enjoyed hearing everyone else's stories, and thank you for that. I hope the audience is enjoying it as well. And they've been great stories and certainly enjoyable. So as there's often a theme, and certainly with the RCMP, we do get into remote communities. We're across the country from coast to coast to coast, and some of the best stories do come from the experiences in the smaller communities. Now, although I was born in Vancouver, I've spent the most of my life in Toronto, and people kind of tease me that I'm kind of Toronto-centric, and I kind of see Toronto as the center of the universe and, you know, all of that stuff. But at least I'm open-minded enough to recognize that it is a big country, and the RCMP does great work across the country. So when I had an opportunity about 10 years ago to go into a fly-in northern community in Manitoba, I was all over it. It was a month doing relief work as the detachment commander in Little Grand Rapids, which is a First Nations reserve, and again, tiny center, about 500 people in the community. So I flew in on a little plane, and I got to sit in the co-pilot seat. I actually got to fly the plane a little bit, which was really neat. We landed on a grass and gravel airstrip, and from there it was pelting rain, and we had to take a boat across from the airport to the main, and then a truck, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh, what did I get myself into? So the next day the storm kind of cleared out, and I got my boat driving lesson because you couldn't get anywhere around there. It was either by boat, by truck, or by ATV. And so Jack, the detachment commander, who I was going to be filling in for, took me on about a half-hour driving lesson in the boat. And there were two boats. There's the big boat, which is a 155, which I still don't even know exactly what that means, but there's the 155 and the 90. And when you start to drive a boat, for those who don't know how to drive a boat like myself, when you start to drive a boat, as you're cutting through the water, the nose naturally goes up, and you have to kind of tilt the steering wheel back and forth, and that'll bring the nose down. And then what Jack gave me the inside track on this, which is that you need to trim up to help bring the nose down. And trimming up has something to do with the engine, moving it up or down, I guess. So yeah, I'm on it. I'm good. Don't worry, Jack. Go enjoy your vacation. Knowing full well that I had no intention of driving these boats. If there were enough people around who could drive, I would be quite happy just to be a passenger. So over the next month, the lake level was dropping lower and lower, and it was actually getting really quite dangerous because the water levels were so low. And I did not drive the boats at all. So it got to the point that the 155, the big boat, was actually too big to drive into the shallow water. So we switched to the 90, the smaller boat. And finally a day came. We'd had a really bad storm, lots of snow and cold weather and all this. and my day of reckoning was upon me. I was going to have to drive the boat because we had to be doing some shuttling back and forth to the airport. So we get up first thing in the morning, and the sun was just barely rising, and there was mist coming off the lake, and it was like glass. It was probably the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen with the fall colors. So we went across to the other side where the airport was, and Evan, one of the guys who was really good on the boat, he drove it over and parked it backwards at the dock so that I could just get out easily, and I took them all up to the airport. So now it was my turn. I was by myself, and I was driving the boat back to the other side. So I got in the boat, and I actually said to myself out loud, come on, you can do this. And I said to the boat, it's just you and me. So I started the engine, looked behind me, okay, pulling out, got out into deeper water, opened it up, whoop, up goes the nose, okay, turn the wheel back and forth, uh-oh, the nose is still staying up, okay, trim up. So I trim up, oh, the boat goes even higher in the water, and I'm going, and it's going fast, and it was actually to the point that my feet were coming off the ground. I felt like a flag on a flagpole doing a wheelie across this lake, and then finally I conked out the engine. So eventually the boat kind of came to a stop, and there's this big wake around me that I had created. I had to remind myself, it's fresh water, there are no sharks, you're going to be okay, just start the boat again. And so I started up again, start going again, start trim up, and this, I couldn't control this boat. So I just basically did a wheelie all the way across to the other side, created this huge wave as I came into the dock. I swamped the dock, and all the people that I was coming to pick up were standing there staring at me in silence as the spectacle came upon them. I got out of the boat. I was shaking. I was so freaked out by what had happened. So we had to go. Now we picked up all the other people and had to go to the other side again. So one of the guys said to me, "Do you want me to drive the boat?" I just kind of nodded. So we got in the boat. No problem. We went right across the lake. I'm like, how did he do this? So I sat silently, completely humiliated, got to the other side in silence, dead silence, the four of us in the boat, and we load everything up into the truck. And there was only room in the truck for two people up front. So Anne-Marie, one of the gals who worked there, she and I hopped into the back. And again, not a word had been spoken through all of this. The doors close, and she turns to me and she goes, "What the hell was that?" So I didn't know. The boat was up. I couldn't get the nose down. She goes, "Yeah, no kidding. You couldn't get the nose down. We could see you coming from across the lake." So anyway, we had a good laugh about it. And I said, "Well, I trimmed up." And she goes, "No, that's on the 155. On the 90, you're supposed to trim down." Well, something that Jack never told me. So her final words of wisdom to me were, "Well, whatever you do, don't show weakness to the guys." So that was how the City Slicker met her match on page 176.
So are we going back to BC, or we're done for now? Did you want to have a few words here, Aaron? So I'll just end, I guess. I want to thank everybody for coming out here this evening. We certainly very much enjoyed putting this book together. I think it's so important to have a collective voice for the women that are in policing, to tell their stories so people really understand what it's like to do the work we do. So thank you very much for taking the time out from your evening to be with us and sharing our stories.
I really don't have much to add other than thank you for coming. And is there any questions that we can answer for you while we have you here? If you have any questions, you know what, let's not do that formally. We're going to be around here for the next 20 minutes or so. If you have a question, come up and ask us. But what we're going to do in just one moment, we're going to get all of our contributors up to the front here so we can have a picture taken together. And then we'll do any number of combinations of family and Michelle and other people and Matt. Don't try to think you're getting out of it. So we'll do a little bit of a photo shoot. I want to thank Joey so much for doing the streaming for us. What's your website, Joey?
Thepublicrecord.ca.
Publicrecord.ca. Okay, and thanks for coming. If you do buy a book, you want us to deface it, we'll do that for you. So if you buy a book, we'll by all means I'll throw our signatures on it for you if you want that. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. You might as well cut the YouTube feed. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and we'll take your pictures. Thank you. Thanks, Joey.